Good morning, everyone. I'm Clinton Griffiths, editor of Farm Journal Magazine. Welcome to Farm Journal Live, the AM edition. Today, we'll be visiting with the CEO of Growth Energy, Emily Skor, about what's happening in the biofuels industry. What are some of the policy issues that are top of mind, and where does that industry stand given all of the challenges that we've seen from COVID-19? But before we get there, let's bring you up to date on some breaking news headed down into the Gulf Coast. Happening right now, Hurricane Sally coming ashore near Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's a Category 2 storm. The storm has top winds of 105 miles per hour. The coast being pummeled with sideways rain. The beach covering storm surge is there. The National Hurricane Center saying that Sally will cause dangerous flooding from the Florida Panhandle to Mississippi and well inland in the days ahead. Now, we spoke with a gentleman from Louisiana's a reporter down there in Louisiana who said that he'd been to, that part of the country here in the last few days, and that the cotton crop was just looking absolutely tremendous. Obviously, that's at risk given the rain, which we're hearing could be anywhere from 12 inches to 30 inches over the next couple of days. Sally has been moving at an extremely slow pace, and the track taking her across the southeastern U.S., and so we expect heavy rains and flooding in that area. We'll continue to follow that story on AgWeb and on Ag Day each and every day. But right now, why don't we go ahead and bring in the CEO of Growth Energy, Emily Skor. And Emily, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's talk about some of the issues that the biofuel industry has been dealing with and talking about and facing here over the last few months and weeks.
Hi, Clinton. Great to be with you this morning.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. Now, there was some kind of big news and some announcements from the administration this last week that seemed to, I don't know if I want to say start a new point for us, but at least give some movement in maybe the right direction.
I think movement in the right direction is the right way to characterize it. And it shows that the president is listening to our champions, like Senator Ernst, who have worked very hard to get his attention. Yes, Monday, the EPA announced that it has denied a series of GAP waiver requests for years as far back as 2011. This is for compliance with the Renewable Fuel Standard. This is good news for the industry. It's welcome news. It's the right decision. We're ready to close that chapter and move forward as we continue to make sure that we restore integrity to the Renewable Fuel Standard. So that was very welcome news. Also, some announcements. The president tweeted on Saturday and EPA in a press release Monday talking about the agency's continued work to further eliminate hurdles that remain in the marketplace for consumers to have great access to fuel like E15, a higher blend of ethanol. So that's encouraging news. Again, that speaks to intent, and we've just got to make sure that we hold the administration's feet to the fire, in particular the days leading up to the election, of course.
Yeah, on those gap year waivers, do you think that went far enough? Obviously, not eliminating all of the waivers, but maybe starting down that road. We think maybe 54, 55 of those may be impacted here, but there's still some work to be done.
So yeah, there's 68 requests. They denied 54 because they had gotten feedback from the Department of Energy on 54. Based on the way in which EPA denied it, we have reason to believe the remaining 14, they will be denied as well when they get the feedback from the Department of Energy. So that should be very clean cut, decisive action, exactly the action that we wanted, denial, because there's no way that a refinery today could say, oh, I had hardship back in 2011. Now, there are additional pending waiver requests for the years 2019 and 2020. We do want to see action on that. We want to see it quickly. And all we ask is that EPA act in line with the law. If the agency does that, we will be served well. The Renewable Fuel Standard will maintain its integrity, and importantly, we'll have stability and certainty in national biofuel blending. And that's what we need as an industry as we get on the road to recovery.
Yeah, and you talk a little bit about recovery and obviously the need for certainty there. 2020 has just been a year without a lot of certainty for the biofuels industry. Talk about where we started, where we've been, and where we are today.
Well, you're absolutely right. We came into 2020 and we came into COVID already an industry under economic duress. When you look at the impact of trade wars, of hostile regulators. And so we had a lot of plants actually had to close down and really slow down production last fall. Then comes COVID, a global pandemic, fuel demand drops 50%, and so half of our industry goes offline. We are fortunate now that we're starting to come back. For the past several weeks, fuel demand in the US has hovered around 10% below what it was in 2019. So we kind of seem to have reached a plateau. So some plants are able to come back online, but not all plants. You still have many plants across the country whose doors are closed, and some unfortunately may remain closed permanently.
You know, we talked about how long the recovery may take. What's your horizon here? What's the forecast on when we may get back to 2019 levels?
Yes, looking into my crystal ball. We've been tracking the fuel demand data coming out of various independent agencies, obviously this entire time. What we're really looking at right now is we're not going to get back to some sense of normalcy until 2022. We will be off maybe 10, 12% this year. We'll be down maybe 2 or 3%, depending on what report you're looking at next year. So 2022 is really the year that we've got to focus on. That's a long road to recovery. All the more reason that we need certainty, stability, and clarity coming out of government regulations.
We're visiting with Emily Skor. She's the CEO of Growth Energy. Emily, let's talk about other opportunities for demand. We did get some news out of Brazil the other day, but what about exports and the opportunity to export some of this ethanol abroad?
Well, we've got huge growth opportunities with our exports. In the past several years, we have been kind of creeping up and exporting more. We're going to be down this year. Part of that is because of protective tariffs across the globe, and part of that is because of COVID as well. But if you look kind of at a macro level, there's a huge global appetite for our product. Countries like China, India, Mexico, they're taking a hard look at air quality, at consumer fuel prices, at their own, agricultural, rural economies. And they see ethanol as a solution in the same way that it's been a great solution for us here in the States. And so we increasingly spend a lot of time engaging directly with foreign governments, with foreign businesses, with foreign retailers, as well as our own US government. What we want is access to markets. We want free trade, a level playing field. If we have that, we've got a tremendous amount of potential. I mean, the years ahead, billions of gallons of growth in terms of ethanol demand for American ethanol.
Yeah. Did the Brazilian tariff announcement, will that make a difference?
It's a frustrating announcement. Brazil has a tariff rate quota right now. It's been in place for a few years, where essentially there's a certain amount of ethanol that can go in tariff free. Once we hit that quota, they put a 20% tariff on. It's unfortunate because the real victim of that is actually the Brazilian consumer, and they have to pay higher fuel prices as a result. We've had constant conversations with Brazil. Our government was very involved in negotiations. The TRQ expired at the end of August. We were very much hoping that they would simply eliminate it. Instead, they decided to extend it for 90 days. So it's status quo for 90 days. Our attitude is this gives our government officials 90 more days to hammer out a solution that works for both parties, that restores us really to a place of free trade between the two countries. That's our end game. That's where we want to go. And that's really going to be a win-win for consumers in both economies.
As we talk about some of the things on the horizon, one of the things we've been hearing quite a bit of chatter about is the demand challenges. And I'll play devil's advocate here just a little bit. Given this rise of electric vehicles, where does that sit on your radar of something to worry about from a demand perspective?
Certainly, we're very attentive to that. I mean, listen, electric vehicles, electrification has captured our cultural consciousness. And when you have consumers and lawmakers talking about climate change and climate solutions, it's very easy for them, and they easily go there, readily go there. The important part of the conversation that we're trying to insert is that biofuels like ethanol are the readily available and affordable solution to climate change. So while there may be goals in the long term to have more EVs out there, liquid fuels are going to remain the dominant source of fuel for engines for many years. All the more reason that we should be using higher blends of ethanol. When you blend more ethanol in the fuel, it's cleaner emissions, you're reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and you're going to be achieving your climate goals while supporting the rural economy, while giving consumers a fuel that's a better price point than standard gasoline. So we're at the table having conversations with policymakers, making sure that we educate them. When you're looking for climate solutions, we are here, we're available, and we're affordable.
And we talk about infrastructure, obviously already a pretty good start on getting the infrastructure in place to to increase those blends of ethanol. Talk to me a little bit about, we're about 50 days out from the presidential election here. What is the message? How are you visiting or talking about the renewable fuels industry to both camps as we move toward that November deadline here?
Well, we've been preparing for this for years. So this is not a new conversation that we're having. Back when you had the Democratic primaries, we made sure that as many candidates as possible toured an ethanol plant. 13 of the candidates during the Democratic primaries toured one of our ethanol plant members. That's a great opportunity for them to see the beautiful biorefining plants, how efficient they are, the multitude of co-products that we're producing. So we started this conversation long ago. Most important for us, we need to make sure that we have bipartisan support. We do in Congress. We want to make sure whomever is in the White House next year, Mr. Trump or Mr. Biden, that they support the biofuels. Obviously, Mr. Trump, you see that he directed EPA to address the gap waivers. We're very thankful and appreciative of that. Mr. Biden just yesterday came out with his own response saying it's not enough. There was still 4 billion gallons of demand destruction under this EPA. So the fact that you have both presidents attentive, the president and Mr. Biden attentive to biofuels, that it's on their radar, that they understand that this is really the key to the rural economy. Very important, because we know that we're going to be a factor in consumers' mind and constituents' minds as they head to the polls.
As we work through some of the last few weeks here, what can producers do? Obviously, we're gearing up for harvest here, and folks are going to be pretty busy out in the field. But are there things that they can do moving forward to continue to tout the benefits of renewable fuels and the importance to some of our corn and soybean growers?
Absolutely. I cannot overstate how important the rural voice is, the farmer voice is. That voice is what has helped deliver some of the results that we've gotten coming out of the administration in the past several days. That voice is what has gotten the attention of Vice President Biden and his comments on small refinery exemptions and the importance of a strong biofuel economy. So be loud, be proud, be vocal. I know it's a busy time of the year, but contact your elected officials. Reach out and make sure that they understand. Very important must be their position on a strong rural economy, on a strong renewable fuel standard, on making sure that we have growth, that we're moving toward higher blends. E15 should be the normal fuel in the nation. That's the goal that we've got to have domestically here. So absolutely, people are very much in a position to make an impact. And I ask people to do that in the days ahead.
Well, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to share those thoughts and get us up to date on what's happening in the renewable fuels industry and some of the focus as we move through the rest of 2020 and beyond. So appreciate it. Thank you so much, Emily Skor. She's the CEO of Growth Energy. Thank you, Emily, for being here this morning.
My pleasure, Clinton. Thank you.
All right, and we want to thank all of you for joining us for Farm Journal Live on this AM edition. Coming up at about noon Central Time, that's 1 o'clock Eastern, we'll be visiting with Steve Nicholson of Rabo AgriFinance. He's going to talk to us a little bit about what's going on in markets, where these markets may be headed, specifically on the soybean and corn front, and we'll look at what may lie ahead as we work through the third and fourth quarters of this year. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great morning.